They documented the life of an Alzheimer's patient without realizing a serial killer's spirit was living inside her body. The film begins by introducing medical student Mia, who travels to the remote community of Exuma, Virginia. She isn't there by coincidence. Mia is conducting a research project on Alzheimer's disease with an elderly woman named Deborah serving as the primary subject of her study. She is accompanied by two crew members, Gavin and Luis, whose job is to document the entire research process for a documentary film. When they arrive at Deborah's house, they are welcomed by Deborah's daughter, Sarah, who introduces Mia and her team to her mother. At the time, Deborah is casually chatting with her neighbor Harris. Once everyone gathers, Sarah explains the purpose of Mia's visit. However, much to their surprise, Deborah immediately refuses. She doesn't want her illness to become a spectacle or be used as the subject of a documentary. She even firmly tells Mia to find another patient for her research.
Hey, Ma! Crew I told you about?
Nice to meet you. I'm not interested in being exploited. I think that you would be better off with someone else.
Despite the rejection, Mia doesn't give up. A week later, she returns to Deborah's house with Gavin and Luis. During that time, Sarah has been trying to persuade her mother, and eventually, Deborah changes her mind. She agrees to let Mia study her condition while documenting her daily life as an Alzheimer's patient. Deborah even generously allows Mia and her crew to stay in her house throughout the project so they can observe her condition more closely.
Yes, you found your room.
Oh, this is us. Thank you for your hospitality. Appreciate it.
Once everything is ready, Mia begins explaining the purpose of her research in front of the camera. She describes Alzheimer's as a disease that gradually damages the brain, slowly erasing a person's memories over time. As the illness progresses, it eventually affects the parts of the brain responsible for vital functions such as breathing and heartbeat, which can ultimately lead to death. Shortly afterward, the first interview begins. Sarah talks about the earliest signs of her mother's illness. One incident she remembers vividly is when Deborah forgot to turn off the stove, causing part of the kitchen wall and the spice rack to catch fire. Sarah's story is later confirmed by Dr. Nazir, the physician who has been treating Deborah. She explains that Deborah has indeed been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. Even so, Dr. Nazir describes Deborah as an incredibly strong and resilient woman who refuses to give up despite her condition. She then shares a little about Deborah's past. After her husband passed away from lung disease, Deborah had to raise Sarah on her own. To support their family, she even mortgaged her house to start a telephone operator service. Over time, the business became successful and provided a stable living for them. Deborah fondly recalls her old job as a telephone operator, connecting calls from local residents to doctors, lawyers, and even City Hall. Now in her old age, Deborah continues to exercise her mind by handling her daily activities independently. However, the disease is slowly taking its toll. In the middle of simple tasks, she often loses focus and suddenly forgets what she was doing.
We were able to diagnose that she was in the early stages of Alzheimer's.
You know, I was the nexus of this town.
Yeah.
Doctor, when I am in the middle of something, my mind leaves the premises.
Meanwhile, to capture every moment of Deborah's daily life, Luis installs several CCTV cameras throughout the house so her activities can be monitored around the clock. Later that night, while Mia is checking Sarah's blood pressure, the quiet atmosphere is suddenly shattered by loud noises coming from the kitchen. When they rush over to investigate, they find Deborah in a frantic state, accusing Gavin of stealing her shovel. She hysterically screams at him while tearing apart the entire kitchen in search of it. As the situation spirals out of control, Mia, Sarah, Gavin, and Luis split up and search every corner of the house to help find Deborah's missing shovel. Not long afterward, Mia finally finds the shovel Deborah has been desperately looking for. Strangely enough, it is sitting inside the refrigerator. However, when Sarah picks it up to return it to her mother, Deborah suddenly becomes extremely aggressive. Without any apparent reason, she starts injuring herself, sending everyone into a panic. As her condition rapidly worsens, they rush Deborah to the hospital for medical treatment. After conducting a series of examinations, Dr. Nazir delivers some troubling news. The test results reveal that Deborah's Alzheimer's disease has progressed much faster than expected and has already entered its second stage. The diagnosis makes Mia and her team even more determined to document every change in Deborah's condition. Time passes and the research reaches its 15th day. After being discharged from the hospital, Deborah appears to return to her normal daily routine.
I don't have a glass. Nice to see you too, Ma.
This is a place to live. She loves this.
However, the calm doesn't last long. Luis accidentally notices Deborah sitting alone in her bedroom, staring into a mirror. Making the scene even more unsettling, the elderly woman seems to be talking to herself as if she is having a conversation with someone invisible. From what he can hear, Deborah repeatedly begs for everything to stop. By the 18th day of the research, the strange incidents become even more frequent. While Mia, Sarah, Gavin, and Luis are chatting downstairs, they suddenly hear a suspicious noise coming from the upper floor.
What is that?
Sarah immediately runs upstairs to investigate while Luis stays behind. From where he stands, Luis sees Deborah slowly walking toward one of the rooms. Sensing that something is wrong, he quietly follows her. When he reaches the room, Deborah is standing completely still, staring blankly at a wide-open window. Moments later, Sarah arrives and tells Luis that her mother is probably hallucinating because of her illness. After Sarah closes the window, Deborah immediately grabs several nails and hammers the window shut herself.
We're nailing the windows shut again.
Later that night, the CCTV camera inside Deborah's bedroom captures another bizarre event. In the middle of the night, Deborah suddenly wakes up. Oddly enough, the camera pointed at her bedroom door never records her leaving the room. Realizing something is terribly wrong, Mia, Sarah, Gavin, and Luis search every corner of the house for Deborah. Their search eventually leads Luis back to the room where Deborah had nailed the window shut earlier that day. When he arrives, he discovers that the window has somehow been opened again. Even stranger, Deborah's dress is lying abandoned on the ground. Realizing that her mother has disappeared once again, Sarah immediately runs into the woods behind the house. Her suspicion proves correct. She finds Deborah digging into the ground alone in the middle of the night while screaming hysterically.
How does that feel? Is that okay? Don't worry, we're gonna clean up your nails, Dad.
My daughter doesn't like manicure.
The series of disturbing events finally convinces Gavin that something far more sinister is happening to Deborah. To support his suspicion, he asks Mia and Sarah to watch the CCTV footage from the kitchen. The recording clearly shows Deborah suddenly appearing on top of the kitchen counter without any sign of how she got there. The impossible footage makes them begin to question whether everything that has happened can really be explained by Alzheimer's disease alone. The following morning, Sarah immediately calls Dr. Nazir and tells her about everything that happened the previous night. Not long afterward, Harris comes to see Sarah. Speaking in a serious tone, he once again urges her to stop the documentary project. In his opinion, Mia and her team's presence is only making Deborah's condition worse and disturbing her peace. Even so, Sarah refuses to stop the research because she is determined to find out what is really happening to her mother. As the days pass, the research reaches its 24th day. As scheduled, Mia begins another interview session with Deborah. This time, Sarah deliberately shows her the footage of herself digging in the woods the previous night. However, Deborah immediately denies everything, insisting that the woman in the video is not her. Mia explains that they had tried to stop her at the time, but Deborah had been completely unconscious and unable to control herself. Instead of calming her down, the explanation triggers an unexpected reaction. Deborah suddenly flies into a rage and attacks Gavin. The incident leaves them with no choice but to take her back to the hospital. Hoping to determine the cause of her increasingly bizarre behavior, Dr. Nazir performs a spinal fluid extraction to examine Deborah's nervous system. However, instead of finding answers, the examination only deepens the mystery. During the procedure, the camera captures Deborah violently scratching her own arm until she tears the skin open.
Deb, don't stop doing that! A disturbing infection has occurred. The examinations raise more questions than they answer.
After witnessing the unusual symptoms, Dr. Nazir suspects that Deborah may be suffering from an allergic reaction to certain medications. Even so, the theory feels questionable because the symptoms have absolutely no connection to the progression of Alzheimer's disease. As the days go by, the research reaches its 41st day. Mia, along with Gavin and Luis, returns to Deborah's house to continue documenting her condition. After witnessing a series of increasingly bizarre events that can no longer be explained logically, Sarah and Mia decide to secure every small object and sharp item in the house to prevent Deborah from hurting herself. Once everything has been collected, Sarah and Luis carry the items into a storage room. However, just as they are about to open the door, they are suddenly startled by the appearance of a venomous snake. After it slithers away, they enter the storage room and discover several old paintings depicting a dark, shadowy figure standing in front of a window. The discovery further strengthens Gavin's suspicion that what Deborah is experiencing may be far more than Alzheimer's disease. He begins to believe that a supernatural force is influencing the elderly woman. Convinced of his theory, Gavin hangs a cross necklace near the room's window. Before he even has a chance to step away, Deborah suddenly appears, standing right beside him without anyone noticing when she arrived. At the very same moment, the window that had been tightly shut suddenly swings open on its own. Disturbed by what he has just witnessed, Gavin immediately tells Mia everything that happened. However, Mia still tries to approach the situation rationally. She believes the incident could simply be a coincidence and isn't ready to conclude that anything supernatural is involved. Meanwhile, after making sure her mother is sound asleep, Sarah leaves Deborah alone in her bedroom. But just like on the previous nights, the CCTV cameras capture Deborah slowly waking up and walking out of her room. This time, instead of heading to the kitchen, she makes her way toward her old workspace that has long been abandoned. Not long after Deborah enters the room, the old telephone switchboard suddenly begins ringing loudly, waking everyone in the house.
Who's in your room? Ma!
Deb, what is that?
I'll get it.
No, stop.
The horrifying incident throws everyone into a panic, and Deborah is rushed back to the hospital for treatment. Instead of easing Sarah's doubts, the incident only strengthens her belief that someone has been hiding the truth all along. Out of everyone she knows, one person continues to stand out as suspicious: Harris. Sarah is convinced that he knows about Deborah's past but has deliberately kept it a secret. Determined to uncover the truth, she confronts Harris once again and pressures him to reveal what really happened years ago. Unfortunately, Harris refuses to say a single word, making Sarah even more certain that he is hiding something important.
What if Harris is trying to protect himself?
Whoa, what was that?
Time passes, and the research reaches its 60th day. That night, the hospital's security cameras capture Harris secretly sneaking into Deborah's room. Without the medical staff noticing, he removes all of the restraints securing Deborah to her bed. Moments later, Deborah quietly whispers, pleading with Harris to end her life. At first, Harris looks terrified and struggles to resist, but little by little, he seems to lose control of himself and begins giving in to her request. At that exact moment, a television mounted on the wall suddenly breaks loose and slams into Harris's head, leaving him critically injured. Sarah arrives at the hospital shortly afterward and immediately rushes to Harris. Taking advantage of his condition, she demands that he finally tell her the truth. Barely clinging to life, Harris finally confesses that Henry had actually been killed by Deborah many years ago. After killing him, Deborah and Harris burned Henry's body before burying his remains in the woods behind Deborah's house. After hearing the confession, Sarah, Mia, and Luis immediately head to the location Harris described.
There's nothing here.
Wait.
There's nothing.
I know, but this is where he said. Do we really think that there is a body here? The soil. It's different, right? The remains. Where he was.
They find no trace of Henry's remains. The only thing they discover is Deborah's missing shovel. At that moment, everything finally begins to make sense to Sarah. She realizes that when Deborah was seen digging in the woods late at night, she wasn't burying something at all. She had actually been moving Henry's remains somewhere else. Sarah then suspects that the remains have been hidden inside the house. She takes Mia and Luis up to the attic, and her suspicion proves to be correct. There, they discover a large sack emitting an overwhelming rotten smell.
Is it stuck?
Oh my God! Go, 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 go! We have to!
I'm not touching it.
Without hesitation, they drag it outside, intending to burn Henry's remains once and for all in hopes of ending everything. But the moment they open the sack, a black snake suddenly slithers out, startling them. Although shaken, they continue with their plan by placing the sack containing Henry's remains into the fireplace and setting it on fire. However, just as the flames begin to spread, a violent explosion erupts from inside the fireplace, throwing both Mia and Sarah backward. Realizing the situation has become far too dangerous, they decide to leave the house immediately. In the middle of the chaos, Dr. Nazir calls Sarah to inform her that Deborah has escaped from the hospital. Before leaving the house, Sarah takes the remaining pieces of Henry's body that were not completely burned. Shortly afterward, they review the hospital's CCTV footage and discover that Deborah has abducted a young girl named Kara. Based on all the clues they have gathered so far, Sarah concludes that Deborah is most likely heading toward the abandoned mine where Henry once performed his ritual. At that moment, Sarah finally realizes that all of her mother's strange behavior has not been caused by Alzheimer's disease alone. Instead, Deborah's body has been possessed by Henry's spirit. She believes Henry is trying to complete the dark ritual he failed to finish years ago in order to achieve eternal life. Since he had already claimed 4 victims in the past, Kara is now believed to be the 5th and final sacrifice needed to complete the ritual. Without wasting another second, Sarah, Mia, Luis, Gavin, and several sheriff's deputies rush to the abandoned mine.
I'm gonna fill those syringes Nazir gave us.
There's no place he'd go, the cave system. Well, he's got to complete the ritual, right? The 5th girl.
When they arrive, they find Deborah holding Kara captive. Sheriff Linda carefully attempts to defuse the situation peacefully, slowly approaching Deborah while persuading her to release the little girl. However, without warning, Deborah suddenly attacks one of the deputies before fleeing once again, dragging Kara into an abandoned building. Following the trail of blood left behind, the group immediately chases after Deborah into the building. As a safety precaution, Sheriff Linda instructs everyone to remain outside while she enters the building alone to secure the area. However, only moments later, the eerie silence is shattered by the sound of a gunshot echoing from inside.
You stay here. I'm gonna bring her out, all right? Can you say anything?
Hearing the shot, Sarah and Mia immediately ignore the danger and rush into the building after her. Once inside, they are horrified to find Sheriff Linda lying lifeless on the ground.
Linda! Linda! No!
Although terrified, they know they have no time to hesitate. Their only priority now is finding Deborah and rescuing Kara before it's too late. They carefully make their way through narrow tunnels crawling with venomous snakes, forcing them to watch every step they take. After overcoming countless obstacles, they finally catch up to Deborah, who is still holding Kara captive.
Sedate her. I'm gonna jab her. Just keep going.
Go fuck yourself!
Seizing the opportunity, Sarah quietly approaches her mother from behind while holding a syringe filled with sedative, hoping to subdue Deborah without hurting her. But before she can inject it, Deborah suddenly spins around with incredible speed and attacks Mia. Taking advantage of the chaos, Deborah drags Kara even deeper into the cave. The pursuit continues into the deepest part of the abandoned mine, where Sarah finally finds Deborah cornered with Kara. To everyone's horror, Deborah opens her mouth unnaturally wide and attempts to swallow Kara's head, almost like a snake devouring its prey. Realizing the little girl's life is in immediate danger, Sarah instinctively fires a warning shot into the air. The gunshot briefly stops Deborah in her tracks. Sarah desperately calls out to her mother, begging her to fight against the force controlling her body. At that moment, the entire mystery is finally revealed. Years ago, Sarah had been Henry's intended fifth sacrifice. To save her daughter, Deborah killed Henry before he could complete the ritual. But now, after all these years, Henry's spirit has returned to finish what he started by using Kara as the replacement for the fifth sacrifice. Realizing there is only one way to stop everything, Sarah immediately sets the remaining sack containing Henry's remains on fire, hoping to destroy them once and for all. As she continues calling out to her mother, Sarah hopes Deborah can still hear her voice and fight back against the evil force controlling her. Little by little, her efforts begin to work. As the last of Henry's remains turn to ashes, Deborah finally regains consciousness and is freed from the evil presence that has possessed her for so long. Sometime later, the film shifts to the aftermath of the horrifying events. Deborah and Kara's kidnapping case becomes national news and is covered by numerous television stations. During one news broadcast, it is revealed that Kara, who had previously been diagnosed with advanced leukemia, has miraculously made a full recovery after being rescued from the abandoned mine. However, the story is not quite over. During a brief television interview, the camera slowly zooms in on Kara's face. As the interview comes to an end, the young girl suddenly gives a faint but deeply unsettling smile. That chilling smile serves as the film's final scene, leaving the audience wondering whether the nightmare has truly come to an end or if something far more sinister still remains. And with that, the story comes to an end.